Uh, my plan for these 15 minutes is the following. I'm going to give you a background, which is just to begin with, is that I'm teaching the introductory statistics at this university and has been doing so for 7 years by now. So there is some how-to and some history and some outputs on this, some statistics on how much it's used, student evaluation, and some thoughts about comments on the use of smartphone related to what I'm doing. So basically, the background for doing what I'm doing, which I'll come to in a second, is that a couple of years ago, we passed sort of the threshold of what we could manage in a single lecture hall here at our technical university in our basic stats course. So we thought about what to do about this. Should we simply double, having to do two rounds of teaching? Instead, we decided on, with the help of some locals here in our IT service and our learning lab facilities at our university, to set up a way to simultaneously transmit my lectures to a neighboring auditorium. And with the secondary benefit that we could actually record everything and subsequently share the lectures with everyone. Personally, I found that a bit interesting to start playing around with these facilities, since I had some background previously in working with an sort of online version of a master degree of applied stats, which was a cross-university collaboration in Denmark a few years ago. Unfortunately, for many reasons, it doesn't exist anymore. So, what was the challenges for me as a teacher standing there? I had to think about what did I usually do in my way of doing my lectures. And then I had to face the following sort of practical challenges. We needed to solve sort of the hardware situation. We needed to introduce some camera thing and maybe a camera person. That's what we did, like the young man here in the corner in the first version of it. We had to think about audio, microphone, and then I had to sort of introduce the use of a tablet computer, which I started at that. And I had to think about what kind of software should we use, and we ended up deciding on the Adobe Connect meeting facility, which is, I know, just one choice of different possibles within such web conferencing facilities, which is basically in Denmark given to us by our national research net that provides this to us. So just to a bit of related to the background, the way I did my lecturing in a sort of quite very traditional way, I would imagine. I had some PDF-based computer presentations. I used the Blackboard. I used supplementary sort of old-fashioned overheads with example, and I obviously in basic stats, I used some software tutorials. I went on the internet to look at different stories and examples. And basically the solution, the practical solution, is to wrap everything into my tablet PC. So tablet PC, where you can write on the screen, and then add a mic and a camera, and everything works through your tablet. So everything, all the things I was doing in the lecture hall, basically I put it into my tablet PC. So I call it how-to. It's going to be a very, very brief one because I cannot do that in 15 minutes. At the same time, where I want to tell you a lot of other things. Basically, we use this meeting room facility within the Adobe Connect, where I'll show you how it looks in a second. And you can make this meeting room, and you can actually, apart from sharing the video, you can share your presentations, you can share your computer desktop, you can do polls and chats actually, if you want, and if you dare. You can record things, and then you can share it afterwards. Here is just a snapshot from one of my recorded videos. I give you a link that you can everyone go and see. Just illustrating the Adobe Connect window, and just for showing you that I have sort of, you can also do Blackboard writing, handwriting on the screen. This is just a snapshot of that. This is one way of putting the camera. Here's another snapshot where I have included different polls, small polls windows, and the chat window. You can start using that. So history-wise, this is a bit of a terrible slide, but anyway, just to give you an impression of that, this was not, this was not initiated as a research project. This was initiated as a way to handle a practical situation, and then we did it in one way the first time, and then it sort of developed a little bit over time. And this is showing you what we have done. I started out in the fall of 2008. We had used a real video camera like the setting here. Also, we had a person recording assistant like here in the lecture hall. We did the simultaneous transmission to the auditorium, and we uploaded the recorded lectures afterwards. We did not, and that's an important point given the topic of this session. In the beginning, I did not invite students in the meeting room to be there with me during the lecturing. That was too much simply for my capacity at that time. So I thought I cannot cope. We just used the meeting room facility to invite the single laptop in the neighbor auditorium into the meeting room to simultaneously transmit. So that's how we started it. Then as of spring, I said to myself, I'd like to sort of do this on a more standard basis. So I'd like to do it without the additional high-level camera support and having a person and high-level camera. Couldn't I maybe do this in a at least satisfactory way with just using a simple webcam thing without all the pro equipment? So that's what I've been doing since. I use my own webcam. I just position it in the lecture room to sort of capture as you saw, you could capture either this like that. It's more traditional like this. It basically captures me standing here, and then sometimes I may run a bit out of the camera, which I don't think it matters a lot actually for the final result. I also played around with actually focusing only on the audio part, not so much on the video part. You can do that in the meeting room if you want. You can just take away the video part if you want and just focus on the audio. Then last year, I started in the middle of the period to experiment with inviting students into the meeting room. So actually trying to develop a bit on the active learning part of it, you could say. Until now, it was just recording what I did. So, you could have done that 10 or 20 years ago if you wanted to. And then this is what I've been consistently doing in the course version, which I currently ended up, that I invite people to log into the meeting room with me. It gives some options of having people doing polls as a direct alternative to clickers, you could say. You can also, there is a chat window. Obviously, it's difficult to chat with 200 people while you lecture them at the same time, but it may give you some options actually still, if you think about it. Maybe you can have a chat master in there with you, a TA or something like that. That's one of my thoughts for next time. And just, I've started actually to use that in all of my teaching. So basically, in all of my teaching, you could say I have my own little gear. I just have my tablet and a bit of audio and webcam equipment, and you can record everything and share everything with everyone. And that's what I do now. I kind of like that way of teaching now. In the beginning, I was a bit hesitant myself. Can you really do proper teaching? You like to write on the blackboard. I think it's okay. You can actually do it. Maybe you have to get used to it a little bit, and I think it works, for me at least. Let me just, when it comes to the output, there we are. The benefit of this is that you collect, you get sort of, when you have done that, this for a while, you have a nice material of lectures on basic stats, on continuing stats, and you can share that with partners, industry partners, continuing education activities, PhD education, education for other people from other departments, and of course with your own students. This is a nice, I think, material. I was just gonna show you the Danish one, not because you understand. I just wanted to show you, this is a completely open website that all of you can actually click into if you want. And just within different topics of basic stats, I started doing small sort of 15 to 20 minutes video clips while I lecture. So I plan there are different ways of doing it, but the way I'm doing it is that I stop and start my video recording in the meeting room facility, linked to my lecture, to the structure of my lecture. So linked to the topics, right? So you can find a small video on confidence bands for one sample stats. You can find a small video on the basic t-test. You can find a small video on simulation-based methods that we introduce our basic students to also here. So I find that a pretty neat material, actually. See if I can. So, and just a few numbers on how much this is actually used. There are a lot of numbers here. Let me focus on this one. During basically 2010, I had 10,000 clicks on my videos. Basically how it works is that these videos, I mean, using the Adobe Connect software, it's very easy to use for the naive technical user, as that's how I consider myself. You don't play around with video files yourself. It's basically just a link, and it's taken care of by the server of this system. So you don't have to play around with video files yourself. It's basically there when you press stop on the recording, there's a link, and you can share the link with students. That's how it works practically from the user's perspective. You can see the development. In the beginning, I recorded a completely 90-minute session. Now I'm recording like this version here. That's my last version. I have approximately 5 video clips for each lecture. I have 13 lectures. That's the 65 video clips of on average 18 minutes of length. I had 10,000 clicks in 2010. During the 4 months, this year I already had almost 9,000 clicks in 4 months. And if you think about it, these are clicks on introductory statistics lectures by young people, most of them, maybe also some older ones. But as this is probably not the most popular topic to go searching for on a Friday and Saturday night by our youngsters and teenagers, I do find this number pretty neat, actually. It's difficult to know what you could expect of such a number, but I find it neat. What about evaluation? I should say that this is just a minor report of the evaluation of these 4 courses. No specific questions were sort of given to the students about the whole recording and IT stuff that I tried to put into this. So basically, I report here. We have a question saying what was the best part of the course, and there's a question saying what was the sort of worst part of the course, right? So I was looking at the comments and how many sort of positive comments on the whole video issue. In a way, it's not so odd that people find it nice that you have an additional option of having a lot of videos there. That would be a bit odd if people wouldn't find that nice. The more challenging part would be, is it really sort of annoying people? I mean, you could say, would they really prefer more traditional lecturing rather than me standing there with my laptop? And how much problems did I have, technical problems and things like that? Well, if we look at the video, negative comments, I call them here, when you ask people what was the worst part in this course, right? I had a couple of negative comments in the beginning, almost entirely related to when everything broke down on us, right? And obviously that's annoying from the student's perspective. Why do you do this if it breaks down? It should work, right? So you can understand that. But I also see a clear trend here, actually, that as I'm getting more and more used to this, and the things simply just work, I mean, basically the students don't comment on it at all, because it doesn't really react, it doesn't have any effect on the students, at least not negative effects. I mean, the whole to make it work. And I'm quite happy with that. So, actually, when it comes to the inviting students in the course, more active of using polls, and you can use it for different types of questions, like we saw previously in this session here. You can do sort of small exercises. You can also do more sort of a bit of stupid, ridiculous kind of things just to make people happy. And doing a basic statistics course, obviously, which is nice. You can collect simple data, which I do. So I have people answer polls, I collect it in the break, and I can do some stats, actually, specifically stats, examples, and things on the data that we collect in the lecture hall. And that's pretty neat also, I find. So far, we have only been, so people would have to start their laptop to actually enter. Or, so far, we did have there was an iPhone app with the Adobe Connect, but it did not support the polls. Actually, you could go on with the iPhone already now. But for now and for next time, we have much better apps that was now coming up for this. So we have apps now for both iPhone and Android phones that also supports the poll function. So I'm quite looking forward to my next version of this course, and I hope that will have many more people, because I should say, I had 80 people in the lecture hall. I had 160 people signing up for this course. I maybe had 50% showing up. I had maybe 20, 30 people actually wanting to play with me in the meeting room while I was lecturing. So of course I found, and they were quite happy about it, but it did not have a major impact, you could say, on the course as a whole. But I'm looking forward to my next version of it, and I'm having some ideas of how to move on here, because for the future, I say better audio. Since I wanted to go simple after a couple of years ago where we had the full equipment, then I wanted to go simple, and that was to some extent a success, but I realized for practical thing that the audio part is extremely important. So I want to go more pro on the audio again. I'm gonna buy in some, you can do your own version of sort of auditorium audio thing. It doesn't have to be that expensive to invest. You can have small portable receivers if you want. So you could still be a kind of a portable solution with your tablet if you want that. I'm gonna develop, as I've indicated, with this interactive possibilities with using the polls and the chat, since now the new apps are there for people to actually start using that. I have someone came up with the idea, which I found quite neat, to actually maybe use a TA to be a chat facilitator during my lecturing. That could be neat, actually. I would like I'm also chairing a stats section here, so it could be nice for, and some of my colleagues are developing other types of these things, and we would like to have more complete material out there over the next years. We already have quite a bit. Then I have the idea, and we'll see how it works with the resources to be able to find out. I would like to investigate in more detail how the student behavior actually is in my courses, which I'm not 100%. I only can see how many people show up at the lecturing and at the TA. I haven't tried to formally try to monitor, and I would like to do that, and I would like to relate that both to evaluation and obviously to course results. So that's some ideas for maybe a more scientific view into the consequences of what I've started here. Okay, that's it. Thanks.